Good morning. I'm making this video in case I am not able to reach as many people as I possibly can for this presentation. Welcome to Black Excellence is Black History too. Let us uplift Black voices instead of solely dwelling on the ugly side of our history. Let me start by saying to you that any English teacher in Norway is able to teach you Black history. Being blacker than Wesley Snipes is not a requirement for somebody to teach Black history. I'm fully aware of that. But I'll explain later why I am doing this. So, the purpose of this presentation today is to bring you some awareness of what Black excellence is. When I say Black history, some students will jump and say, oh no, we're going to hear about people getting murdered and people getting beat up and slavery and all that. We know all of that. There's a lot more to Black history than slavery, Jim Crow's laws, and apartheid in South Africa. And I'm not saying that that's not relevant. And like I said, any teacher in Norway is qualified enough to teach this because English teachers in Norway are really, really good. When I look back at Brazil, where I was headhunted as a teacher because I speak fluent English, I lived in countries where English is the first language. I grew up part of my life in the United States. I was headhunted. And here in Norway, every single teacher that I have met spoke very good English and was highly educated and fully capable of teaching Black history. So, the reason why I'm doing this, I'll tell you. But before we get there, let's take a look at the pictures I selected for my PowerPoint. Who do you know from this picture? President Obama, The Weeknd, Kelly Rowland, Nelson Mandela. You might not know the 5 beautiful pageant winners, but I'll tell you what, they have been fantastic examples for young Black women whose self-esteem was on the ground for feeling that there was not enough representation of their beauty in modeling and beauty pageants. And as much as you'll say, hey, this is not relevant, yes, it is too. Society shows us all the time how relevant how you look can be to how you navigate this world. Why am I doing this? Like I said, English teachers in Norway are fully equipped with the knowledge and every single diploma that they need to teach Black history. What most English teachers in Norway are not equipped with is the lived Black experience. And although that's just one part of Black history, I feel like that story should be told. And this is why I'm here telling it. There's more to it though. So as you can see, I have been a teacher for 34, almost 35 years. And at some point throughout the past 23 years in Norway, I experienced some incredibly horrific events that pulled me out of my bubble, in which I thought school was a racism free zone, no matter what country I was in, and I felt safe. Let that sink in for a moment that I've been a teacher for almost 35 years, and it took me more than a couple of decades for me to experience racism in a classroom. I did not think that this would ever happen to me, but it did. And once that happened, I figured I could be part of the problem or part of the solution. I recently, not recently, I'm going to say it was last year, I saw a video of a teacher in the United States. He was called the N word by a student, and he just crashed out and he beat the crap out of that student. That kid, he got the racism beat out of him. All right, then. What did that do? How did that solve anything or make anything better? The teacher lost his job, lost his license to teach, and went to prison. I don't think that that's a good solution. So, after I experienced racism in classrooms, not just the type of racism you're thinking of, oh, somebody called her the N word, somebody called her a monkey. There's more to it than that. I'm not going to get into specifics. I'm not naming names. I'm not naming schools. I am not giving you intricate details of what happened, but I'll tell you, it was enough to let me know that people need to be educated in how they treat others. And I felt like we should open our eyes. It is 2025. Racism is not cool. Everybody should be uplifted. Everybody should be heralded. Everybody should be valued and appreciated in society, not just this race or that race. Today, though, we're uplifting Black voices. So I just told you about racism. There are two ways that a person can navigate that. As a person of color, I can consider myself a victim and I can just roll into a little ball, into the fetus position, and cry and feel sorry for myself as a victim. Or I can recognize that I am a target. Some people will be racist, some people will not like me, some will, some won't. So what? So I am a target. And I need to be aware of this so I can protect myself, so I can use tools to navigate society in the best way that I can. Education is freedom. I want you to think of it not just as in, oh, the slaves were freed and then they got an education. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about freeing yourself from your prejudices, from your preconceived ideas that make your view of the world so narrow minded. I'm going to talk about Black excellence this morning. What is Black excellence, by the way? If any of you did not know it from before, you'll know it after today. Black excellence, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, extreme excellence demonstrated by Black people despite racist systems, beliefs, etc. The etc. can cover so much that make it harder for them to achieve success or to be recognized for their accomplishments. So basically, I'm going to put it into words that I think everybody will understand. Basically, Black excellence is being blacker than Wesley Snipes and being treated like crap by a lot of people, not having the same opportunities, but at the end of the day, you're going to slay the house down boots no matter what. That's excellence. That's Black excellence for you. And by the way, the slay thing and slay the house down boots, that is not new. And if you did not know, It comes from Black culture and gay culture. Yes, that's part of culture too. So I'm going to tell you what my journey of Black excellence has been. And I know people are like, Black excellence? Bitch, you don't even have a car. You run through these halls like a crazy person because you take the bus and you walk your black ass up here. Yeah, I do. But I am so proud to be a teacher in this school, and I've been doing it for 6 years and I'll continue to do it. And to me it's a great achievement to have the opportunity to be a teacher here. Not because I'm black, as in a diversity program of some sort, but despite being black. So let me tell you what my journey was. I was born in 1972 and I was born free. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Trevor Noah. Trevor Noah was born a crime. He was born in South Africa as the product of a crime because he is mixed race. So he was born a crime. I'm not from South Africa. I'm not from Africa at all. I was born in Brazil, but I grew up between the USA and Brazil. I have a timeline here that people are probably wondering about. Between 1973 and 79, I was back and forth between the USA and Brazil. I That's where I picked up kinda of an American accent, I'd say. My accent leans more towards that. I went to the best schools, always went to private school. My parents were both educated. That's why I keep saying education is freedom. They're both educated in the 70s when you had a degree as an engineer, when you had a degree from a good university like my dad had from the University of Rio de Janeiro, and my mom had a degree in teaching science and mathematics. So we had a very comfortable upper middle class life, which is not true for most Brazilians, and especially not true for most Black Brazilians. So the year is 1981, and you're wondering about that 1991 thing there, right? So you might, I might cry a little bit telling the story. Some of you might cry a little bit, but you may also laugh a little bit or giggle because it can be kind of funny. But granted that this was more than 40 years ago, I'll be okay if you giggle, right? Don't feel guilty for giggling. And that doesn't mean that you're a racist if you giggle. This story is extremely painful to me, but it taught me so much and it made me so much stronger as a human being. So I'll tell you the story. I'll try to be concise with it. Here I was at a private school. ABC do Lupinho was a private school. Most people that went to that school were either white passing. At perhaps the closest I got to a black person was somebody that was light skinned. And then there was me, very black and very unaware that I was black. And I was just so happy. When I go back to that time and I think about that little girl, I'm like, look at you, how happy you are. I had good friends. I had the best toys, and I would bring my Barbie dolls to school and play with the kids, and I was happy. In third grade, they brought in a new teacher, Valdete, her name is. I wish I knew her last name because I would definitely like to talk to her. So Valdete comes in, white, buffy lady, green eyes, curly. She was kind of pretty, actually. in a supervillain kind of pretty. She comes in and she was super strict. She was, we were afraid of her. I feel like whenever she told us to shut up, we kind of peed a little. We're so nervous when she was around. So, and the reason how I know when this happened is because it was one of the most traumatic experiences of my life. So it was, I think, a couple of days after Princess Diana got married to, at the time, Prince Charles. And we were sitting in a circle talking about Princess Diana, all the little girls, and we had Barbie dolls or whatever kind of doll it was, and we're dressing them up as princesses. And I think I had a black Barbie doll with me. And this teacher was so ignorant that when we're talking about Princess Diana, she's like, "Who is this Princess Diana you all talk about so much? Is she still alive?" And everyone looked around and was like, "Where have you been? Living under a rock?" Because the wedding was in every magazine, was on TV. There was no internet. Okay, let's grant Valdetti that. But it was on TV. It was everywhere. It was on the newspapers and magazines. So we're like, of course she's alive. She's a princess. And we're talking, and for some reason, and I don't know why or how this even got started, this lady says, "Look at you, Pollyanna. You are the only black kid in this classroom." And I'm like, I looked at another girl. She was black, but she was light skinned, almost white passing. And I'm like, no, but Isabella is also black. No, she's she's like tan. You're the only blackie here. Put your arm next to hers and compare skin color. You're the only black one here. You're the only blackie amongst your friends. And that, I didn't have a lot of time to process it because that just prompted the kids to be like, "Oh yeah, that's right, that's right. She's the only black kid. She's the only black one." Ha ha! Just start laughing, and then everyone went, "Blackie, Blackie, Blackie." And it's kind of funny now when I say it like that, but at the time it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. A few days after that, one of the girls, Valeska, her name is, she got all the kids together and she's like, since Pollyanna is the only blackie in here, she doesn't belong here. We should all be against her. We should create a little club against her. And I had a miserable few days of that until I went home and I told my mom about it. And my mom, oh boy, talk about badass. She is out of this world badass. My mom went to the school and she had her finger in that lady's nose like nobody's business and told her, "How could you do this to a child?" Long story short, she got fired. They brought somebody else in as a teacher. And I lived happily ever after. No, not really. It was really difficult. It was really difficult. I It was then I realized that I was different, that I was going to be treated differently, that people would not always see me for me, but that they would see the color of my skin. And through all this time, I I grew stronger and stronger. In 1998, when Brazil celebrated 100 years of freedom from slavery, there was a turning point for me. I started to want to talk about not just the freedom from slavery, but the freedom that we should have from prejudice as well. And I started doing some public speaking in school about that. I then moved to the United States again to finish high school, went back to Brazil to finish university, I got my bachelor's in teaching English, Portuguese, Spanish, and languages. 1995, 1996, I went to New Zealand. What an amazing country that is. 1997, 1999, my master's degree, postgraduate in Australia, all in the area of education. In the 2000s, I came to Norway. And I say Pollyanna grows up because I feel like the highest amount of growth I had as a human being has been after I came to this country and my life in this country. Let's talk about the turning point in my life. I'm going to show you. That's me. I was in the junior local news 1998, and I talked about the freedom, not just from slavery, which was 1998 was a big year for that. So before I went to the United States to finish high school, my junior and senior year of high school, I did that. I was in the junior local news. I didn't just talk about Black history or prejudice or anything like that. I talked about all types of different topics. I interviewed different people. I even considered a career in journalism because of that. Fast forward 2019, I come to Selbu High School and I become the first Black teacher in this community here. I'm the first Black teacher at Selbu High. I'm also the first Black teacher at Selbu Junior High. And I'm very proud of it because I'm here not because of some diversity program. I am here in spite of there not being a diversity program. I fought tooth and nail for every opportunity I've had as a person of color. Let's talk about Black History Month here at Selwood High School throughout the years. I want to give an enormous shout out for it's so emotional to me. I am so proud of my students for the amazing work that they did. But here are some names: Maya, Nadia, Julie, Marian, Dina, Ida, Sigri, Hanna Elisa, Oda, and Ingrid. All the projects were amazing, but these projects, I never forgot those because of all the incredible things that these kids did with Black History Month. We had, at the time, Vegetu did a project about Black History Month, and we had somebody singing Aretha Franklin song, Natural Woman. We had somebody who wrote a poem about Black history. We had Sigri, who she created a picture book where she drew and painted. She did a fantastic book with all of the prominent musicians of Black history. Oda and Ingrid, one talked about The Weekend, and the other one talked about Snoop Dogg. And people are thinking, Snoop Dogg, Black history. Well, guess what? These kids went and found out everything that these Black musicians did on the side of being musicians, how much they did for their communities, and how fantastic they were helping those less fortunate than they are. And last but absolutely not least, I want to talk about what Nadia Dudal did because her project was one of the most extraordinary ones. She talked about Harriet Tubman, but not only that, she explored the life of Harriet Tubman and everything that she represents to Black history. And she talked about the movie, not just, hey, here's a movie that was made about this lady that was so important for Black history. She combined the lives and achievements of Black excellence of these two ladies, the actress that played Harriet Tubman in the movie. So shout out to Nadia for that. What you may not know about Black culture. What is Black culture? So I listed some things. I don't know that people talk about them often enough in white spaces. So that's why they're in here. Hair, skin, music. I feel like everyone knows somebody that likes. There's no such thing as Black music, but there is music made by Black musicians. Food, literature, and cinema. I try to the best of my ability to bring in different elements of Black culture to my students. We often talk about Toni Morrison. Those of you, I'm going to say all of you, that in Vega Ann, the book that you're using is a book called Citizens. Citizens SF, for those of you doing studiespecialisering or studieförberedande, and Citizens UF, which is the one that covers all the vocational studies. And I believe there is one specifically made for the different areas. All of these books, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that I'm going to say most of these books, not all of them, because I'm not sure. They have an entire chapter about Black history in which they talk about my girl, Toni Morrison. Who is Toni Morrison? I'm sure, well, my students definitely know who Toni Morrison is. She's the first Black woman to receive the Nobel Prize in Literature. So sometimes because teachers might be, they might not have the time, they might prioritize something else, they might skip those pages. And and then you miss out on knowing who Toni Morrison was. She passed away a couple of years ago. She has done so much for her community through her literature, where she talks about Black issues, cultural issues that other authors have not touched. She has done a tremendous job with that. We're going to talk about hair and skin. And this might be a touchy topic for some people. But I'm going to go straight into it. So, I'm not a racist. I have Black friends. If you hear somebody say that, please tell them to stop saying that. That makes you sound like you actually are racist and you're just trying to pretend that you're not because you know it isn't cool. Even if it's true, it's just such a weird thing to tell people. And I'll tell you a little story. This is a lot, it is kind of funny now that I think about it. So I believe it was, I'm going to say it was 2008. That was a long time ago. So I'm Facebook friends with this lady. I went to Norwegian studies with. I had to learn Norwegian to become a teacher here. They don't let you teach English if you can't speak Norwegian. See part 2 for the rest.